I guarantee that by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Model Context Protocol is and why it's super important. So let's get right into it. So traditionally, large language models are basically just text models or conversational models where you give them some sort of text as an input and then you receive some sort of text as an output. So for example, if you were to open up ChatGPT and say, hey, how are you? The model will respond to you saying, I'm doing great. How about you? Now, as you can see here, there is text that we gave in as an input to the model, and we received text as an output from the model. So outside of this conversation with the actual large language model, nothing actually happened in the real world. Now, as you can imagine, the number of use cases for such models where they're literally just capable of giving you text back when you give them some sort of text as an input is really quite limited. What we really want is to be able to have models that can actually do things in the real world. So as an example, it would be absolutely amazing if I could ask ChatGPT to go and write an email for me. So for example, I'm going to say, send an email to bigsm.dev to say hi. Now, if I send that through, you can see that the model will respond to me saying, I can't send emails directly, but I can help you draft one. So I gave it a task as an input, and it basically just said, hey, I can't perform that task. I can't do anything external to my actual platform, but if you want, I can give you text as an output to help you perform that task, which is obviously not ideal. And that's where the concept of AI agents was created. So we wanted to build systems that could not only give us text as an output, but could actually take actions or do things in the real world. So taking a look at a quick example, in this case, we have an email agent. So let's give this email agent some sort of text as an input. Let's say the same thing that we said last time to ChatGPT. So let's say send an email to kigasm.dev@gmail.com to say hi. Now in this instance, the large language model didn't just respond to us saying, hey, I'm sorry, I can't write any emails, but if you want, I can help you draft one. The large language model actually went and did this in real life. So it went and actually sent an email to kigasm.dev@gmail.com. So if I come and open up my emails, you can see that 0 minutes ago, we had an email that said, hi there, I just wanted to reach out and say hello, have a wonderful day, best regards, Kia. This is the email that the AI agent sent, and as you can see, this actually happened external to the actual agent itself, meaning that something actually happened or an action was taken in the real world externally to the actual large language model. So if we take a closer look at what actually happened here, you can see that once I sent that text message in, it wasn't just sent to the large language model and the large language model give me a response back straight away. It was actually sent to the large language model, and then the large language model called on an external piece of software via API to actually perform that task. And then once that task was performed, it then came and gave me an answer saying, hey, I've actually sent something in real life. So then coming back to this diagram, in order for the large language model to be able to perform tasks or do things or do actions in the real world, it has to communicate with external softwares and databases via something what we call an API. Now, as you can imagine, an AI agent doesn't necessarily have a brain or hands and fingers in order to be able to go and search up a software on Google Chrome and then go and open it up and just by looking at it know that, okay, well, this place says compose, I should probably click on this. And if I click on this, then over here, I can put the actual person I want to send it to. And then down here, I can actually put the email that I want to send to that person. The AI agent doesn't know any of that or have access to any of that. And that's exactly why these AI agents use APIs in order to be able to communicate with these softwares. So an API always has some sort of URL, which is similar to how when you search up Gmail on your URL to actually go to that software in order to use it. That URL would basically define exactly what software the AI agent wants to communicate. So then the AI agent wants to send some sort of a request for something to happen inside this software. But it's really not as simple as the AI agent just saying, send an email to X person saying Y. It's really not that simple. If it was, that would have been amazing. If the AI agent could literally just say something in English to this software via API, and that software went and actually performed that task or do that thing, that would be absolutely crazy. But the reality of the matter is the software doesn't actually have a brain of its own and it can't make decisions. So when you tell it something in natural language, it's not just capable of going and doing that thing for you. So what actually ends up having to happen in practice is that the AI agent would send some sort of a request over to that software with very specific pieces of information in order to get that software to do that specific task that it wanted to perform. Ideally, every single piece of software and every single application would have the same exact requirements in terms of what sort of information it has to receive in order to do things. But the reality is that that's not the case. Every single software has a different set of rules that define how you can tell it to do things or how you can get it to perform tasks. So for example, in the case of the Perplexity API, Perplexity wants you to send all of these different parameters over one by one to actually tell the application exactly what it is you're trying to do inside that application. So for example, as you can see in this instance, we're sending an API request over to Perplexity asking how many stars are there in our galaxy. Now for a human, doing this is very, very simple. We'll just open up Perplexity, go and paste in this question saying how many stars are there in our galaxy. And then Perplexity will give us an answer saying the Milky Way contains 100 to 400 billion stars. But in the case of using it with an AI agent, you can't just send a message over saying how many stars are there in our galaxy. You have to also define a whole bunch of other parameters that will tell the software exactly what it's meant to do. Like for example, you're meant to say that the model you want to use is the Sonar model. You're meant to say that the system prompt is this thing here. You're meant to say that the maximum number of tokens is this amount. The temperature of the actual large language model is this figure here. You're meant to tell it that it shouldn't return images. It shouldn't return related questions. The response format should be like this and yada, yada, yada. So you're meant to make that sort of request very deterministic in line with exactly what Perplexity wants to know in order for it to be able to perform that task with 100% certainty. Now, these set of rules or these parameters and exactly how these rules are meant to be sent is going to be different for every single software and even different for every single action inside each software. So coming back to the example of this email agent, as you can see, the email agent has access to a whole bunch of different APIs, but they're all Gmail APIs. Now, although they're all the same software, the actual endpoint or the URL that allows you to perform each of these actions is completely different. And that's why you have to give the agent access to each of these URLs or each of these actual tools individually, and you have to tell the agent exactly how it's meant to use these tools in practice. So if the agent wanted to actually send emails, the actual URL that it would send that request to is going to be different to the actual label emails URL inside that same Gmail software. Now, not only the URL is going to be different, the actual parameters that it has to send through here and the parameters that it has to send through here to clearly define what it's trying to achieve is also going to be different. Now, as you can imagine, if we just had an agent that had access to one tool or it was able to do one specific task, achieving a system like this wouldn't be super complex because you just tell the agent that this is the URL you're meant to go to and these are the parameters you're meant to define. So you're meant to define parameter number 1, parameter number 2, parameter number 3. This is what parameter number 1 is meant to be. This is what parameter number 2 is meant to be. And this is what parameter number 3 is meant to be. And if you send all of these in a request to this specific URL, that action will be completed in real life. So in practice, what you actually end up having is agents that look like this, that have to have access to multiple tools, that have multiple different parameters and multiple different URLs. And the agent has to know exactly what those parameters are, and it has to also know when it's meant to call each of those tools and what sort of parameters it's meant to pass and what sort of parameters it's meant to receive, which, as you can imagine, would become very, very difficult for the agent to handle. And that's one of the main reasons why so far we haven't actually been able to build real-world AI agentic systems that did crazy things like replace employees altogether. So in the world of MCP, rather than having to overload all that information about the different tools and which one to use and when to use each and what sort of parameters to pass and how it's meant to use them into the actual large language model or the agent itself, you'd have that information loaded into MCP servers that are software specific. So let's say, for example, if this MCP server was a Gmail MCP server, the server would have access to all of the different tasks that you can perform on Gmail. So in this instance, instead of having, 6, 7 different tools, you would have all of this as one single MCP server. And instead of having to define the information for each of these tools inside the actual agent's prompt, you would have this information stored inside that actual MCP server itself. So for example, if your agent wanted to actually do something inside Gmail or perform some sort of Gmail task, the agent would basically just ask the MCP server how it's actually meant to perform that task inside Gmail. So the agent would actually communicate with the MCP server and will receive back a list of rules and guidelines that it has to follow in order to perform that specific task inside Gmail. So let's say if this service here was send email, once the agent communicates with the MCP server would say, if you wanted to send emails, you have to give me these set of parameters. So for example, you have to say who you want to send the email to. Now that has to be in a string format. Then you have to say what you want the actual body of the email to be. That also has to be in string format. And then, for example, I don't know, you have to say what is the time that you want to send this email, which is going to be in date time format. And so then using this information that the large language model got from the MCP server, it's able to fill out those parameters and then send that request over to the MCP server, which will then send that request over to the actual Gmail tool that it wants to use in order to achieve that specific objective. Now, I hope you can see that this will make our life when building AI agents so much easier. Because instead of us having to find out information about each specific tool that the agent has access to, and then giving that large language model access to that actual information and providing guidelines and processes of how it's meant to use each tool, we just need different softwares to have MCP servers that we can hook up the large language model to, so the large language model can communicate with that MCP server in order to understand how to use that actual software. And this within itself is extremely powerful because it allows us to build AI agents that not only have access to 6 tools, but might have access to 600 tools across the range of 300 different softwares. Now, that's what people talk about when they say AI agents are going to be revolutionary. So the other added benefit here also is that, let's say, for example, if we were talking directly to each of these tools itself, if there were to be some sort of change in this external software, let's say they decided to change how their REST API worked, or they decided to change the parameters for the actual tool, instead of you having to go back to the actual large language model and change that specific rule or specific guideline inside the knowledge of the LLM, you wouldn't have to worry about anything because the actual software company itself would also update the MCP server. So the next time your large language model tries to communicate with the actual MCP server, it will receive the updated set of rules, which will allow it to communicate with that software with no problems whatsoever. So in very simple terms, what Claude was actually trying to achieve by creating the Model Context Protocol standard was that they were trying to get all of the different software companies out there to contribute in order to build successful AI agents, as opposed to just AI agent developers to have to go and do everything themselves. Because think of it this way. Now, instead of software companies just having to build some sort of API for their software, they also have to build this MCP server for their software as well. And as a developer of these AI agents, you don't have to worry about building an MCP server every time you want to communicate to a different piece of software. That software itself would already have an MCP server. So all you have to do is just hook up your AI agent to that MCP server and you're ready to go. So it's in simple terms exactly what happened when APIs came out and people were able to use different softwares in the cloud. So how I like to understand it is that MCPs, or Model Context Protocol, is basically just a way of getting a large language model to be able to communicate with any API out there without the actual large language model itself having to know how to do that from before. Because if you think about it, the large language model just needs to know how to speak English. So the large language model will talk to the MCP server in English saying, hey, what sort of tools can I use? The MCP server would give it a bunch of rules back, and then it would just fill up those different parameters inside that rule and send it back to the MCP server, which would be in the format of code. And then that code would be sent over to that actual API, and that task will happen somewhere in the environment or somewhere in the cloud, external to the actual agent itself. So I hope by now you guys are just as excited as I am about MCPs and the future of AI agent. Because if every single software company out there does actually build their own MCP servers and maintain it over time, then building AI agents for people like me and you is going to be extremely simple. And our AI agents would actually become more powerful because you don't have to overload a whole bunch of information into their prompt, which typically reduces the accuracy. You just have to build very smart systems that are capable of talking to different MCP servers, and then once they receive the rules, they're able to send back information following those rules and perform those tasks. If you guys want me to make a video on exactly how you can set up these MCP servers on your NA10 account, then feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and I'll do that in the next couple of days. But as always, I would appreciate it if you guys like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.